Within the first few weeks, me and Kunal bumped into each other. So we were in the same class, same section in DPS.
Oh, is it?
That's also very important for DPS because it had 23 sections in class 12. So class 12th in itself was 1,000 people strong. So just being in the same class is not good enough. So then I think that's where I bumped into Kunal and both of us bumped into each other. We sort of instantly hit it off. This was very early days of class 11th. And he grew up in Delhi. He had been to DPS all his life. But we hit it off, and then slowly and steadily we started sitting together with each other. And for the next 2 years, we sat next to each other, and I think that's how we became the closest of friends in school.
Wow, but he went on to study outside.
Yeah,
India.
so then, so both of us used to hang out quite a bit. Both of us shared a common passion for jokes and good food. So I was this very traditional baniya, vegetarian, etc. When I came to Delhi, he is the one who introduced me to non-vegetarian food. His mother cooks the best biryani on the planet. I used to go to his home from hostel to eat the biryani, especially from his mother. So that he converted me to a non-vegetarian. He said, Rohit, you're missing half the fun in life. So that's how we became friends. We used to we used to obviously hang out with each other all the time. And then after class 12th finished, we used to keep talking about, different things, just when you're close to each other and when you sit next to each other for 6 hours a day for 2 years, then you talk about everything on the planet, right?
Correct.
So, and we used to also talk about that someday we'll start a business of our own. He wanted to start a business. I wanted to start a business of our own. We didn't know what to do, when, etc. But just we used to have this very conceptual discussion कि यार कभी कुछ करेंगे. And then I went to IIT Delhi. He went to UPenn. But again, both of us used to keep in touch whenever he would come back for his holidays, summer vacation, winter vacation. I used to be in Delhi, fortunately, and his home was in Delhi. So we used to get together, go to all the sort of eat all you can buffets. Both of us used to be really, really overweight back then. And so that's how our friendship sort of stayed current. And then I graduated. He also graduated. Both of us graduated at the same time. And, the original plan that, I at least had was that I'll work for a few years after engineering, go to the US and try and do an MBA, pay off the loan, and then work for a few years in the US and then come back and then start something of my own. I remember he was back home. This was first year after we had started working. And then we got to talking, he said, ki kya plan hai? And I told him the whole 7-year plan of how we'll become, at some point of time in life, entrepreneurs. Then he said, yaar, yehi karna hai agar 7 saal baad bhi. तो ये 7 साल वेस्ट करने की क्या जरूरत है, अभी कर लेते हैं. We were 22, 23 back then. We had no liabilities, no responsibilities. We were not married, no kids, very few expenses, etc. And this was, in hindsight, a very good time because no one had any expectations from us. We were very young. We could fail as many times as we could and still be okay. So that's how one thing led to the other. And
where were you working at the time? Out of IIT?
I was working with Capital One.
Okay.
This is the US credit card company. And
Correct.
I was also we were in a very peculiar situation also, I remember, I got recruited for the US. Okay. And that year, when they were supposed to send me to the US, the 65,000 visas ran out. And they couldn't apply for my visa. So they told me that, why don't you work in Bangalore for a year? Fortunately, they had just opened an office in India. And next year you go to the US. So next year they applied for my visa. Kunal started working with Microsoft in the US. Till this time we didn't really have, we used to think that we'll start something, but there were no concrete plans. As luck would have it, his visa got rejected sitting in the US.
He just put up a post recently about the letter from the Microsoft HR.
So I remember this is because both our companies applied for visa at the same time for H1Bs. I was in Bangalore and my company, Capital One applied for me, and Kunal applied in the US. Microsoft applied for him. And it was such a funny thing that mine got approved while I was living in India, and his got rejected while he had spent 6 years in the US. In hindsight, it is so unfair, but it was a lucky draw, so I don't know how much you could do about it. And I think that's how maybe what was otherwise a very virtual and sort of tentative discussion started becoming very real. He said, look, I mean, this is my situation, this is going to happen. So, but you have your visa, so what do you want to do? So I said, ठीक है, मैं भी करूँ, क्या करूँगा जाके? So, if you are coming anyways, and at some point of time we are thinking of starting our own business, I actually gave up on my visa and both of us started the business together.
That's incredible. And
so I actually never ended up being in the US even though I had an approved H1B. And my parents and everyone in my family went in shock because there was this small town kid who went to IIT first, then got a job in the US. In those times, people didn't used to know dollars and all, right? In India, तो ऐसे लोग count करते थे, अच्छा $60,000 की, $60,000, $30 लाख की जॉब मिली है इसे, तू वो छोड़ रहा है, पागल हो गया तू, etc. etc. So I mean, I used to get those reactions, but I mean, it's fine. So that's how we ended up starting our business.